Hi, I'm Pamela from Fibersprite.com. In today's video, I want to talk about studio lighting. So I'm here in my new weaving and sewing studio. I also have some drum carding, fiber blending going on in here. I usually don't do my spinning or my knitting in here because those happen on the couch in front of the TV. But the topic of lighting is really important because you need to be able to see to do your textile work. And I realized as I was setting up this space how much of a difference good lighting makes. I had taken for granted my previous studio spaces that had really great lighting. Some of that was just because I'd forgotten how much effort went into getting the best lighting for those spaces. So in one of those spaces, I had actually paid an electrician and ordered overhead track lighting. And that was really great light. It was customizable. I could angle the lights so that they had light exactly where I wanted it to go and didn't have glare that hurt my eyes. And in another studio space, I had lots of really bright LED lights overhead, and we also, it was an attic space, and we had installed windows mostly to create a cross breeze so it was tolerable to be up there in the summertime. But it also created really fantastic natural light. In this studio space, however, I'm not ready to hire an electrician and I didn't have great light. So there are two windows in one corner, and in that same corner of the room is a ceiling fan with a little bit of overhead light. But it wasn't enough to light up the whole space. That was the purpose of the room. Originally was to either be a formal dining room or a living room or some kind of combination of the two. And in that kind of situation, you don't need a ton of light. You need enough light to be able to see your plate if you're eating. You need to be able to see, your friend who you're talking to or your family member that you're talking to, but you don't need to see every detail. In fact, it could be good to not see everything. It creates a soft, comfortable mood. It makes it pleasant. It helps you relax at the end of the day. Those are all great things, but they weren't what I needed for a weaving studio. So when I first moved into this space, I was using floor lamps. I had a couple that I already owned, and so I brought those in to see where the light would work, whether it would help, and it really wasn't enough. What is needed for lighting a room really depends on the size of the room and the purpose that you're lighting it for. So I found there were online calculators that will tell you exactly how much light you need in your room based on the size of the room and the purpose that you're using it for. This room is 11 feet by 22 feet, which is really pretty big for a room. And so I started with about 1,500 lumens with the single overhead light that I had. And then one of my floor lamps I know is about 1,000 lumens. But the online calculators were telling me that I needed anywhere from 10,000 lumens to 20,000 lumens to effectively light this space for studio work. So on the lower end of that scale was what would be classified as office work. That's the 10,000 lumens, and then an art studio, it said, would be about 20,000 lumens. I mentioned earlier that I didn't want to hire an electrician yet. It's really just not in the budget. We've also had a little bit of trouble here scheduling electricians and other contractors to come work on small jobs. Everybody's really busy and a little bit understaffed, and that's totally understandable. So I wanted to make sure that I knew exactly how much light I needed, how much I wanted, where I wanted it to go. I really wanted to get clear about what my lighting needs were before I dove into hiring somebody and spending a lot of money and making a big investment. I was really stumped for a long time about what to do. Everybody kept telling me to do wall sconces, and I kept thinking, like in a hotel? Aren't those hardwired? I'm gonna have to hire an electrician anyways, and it's really not gonna do that much. Like hotel wall sconces are just there as mood lighting. I don't want mood lighting, I want light. I want bright light. I need a lot of light. And finally, I was listening to a podcast where they were talking about budget options for lighting, maybe for renters or people who just don't have a ton of money to spend on light. They talked about wall sconces, and one of the things that they said was get a plug-in wall sconce. And I was like, that's exactly what I needed. So finally I went online and I found some plug-in wall sconces that weren't too ornate or elaborate. They were pretty affordable. They were $35 or so for a pair, so under $20 each. And so I ordered those and installed them. You can see one right there on the wall behind me. It's not on right now because even though it creates great light for working, it creates some glare for video. This is what the box looks like. So each box has two, and it does include a bulb that can switch between several different color temperatures. The way that you control it is with the switch. So each time you click the switch, the bulb changes temperatures. That would be really helpful if you maybe are using the space as both a relaxing space and a working space. So color temperature is how yellow or blue the light is, yellow being warmer and blue being cooler. Color temperature was something that I struggled with in lighting this space as well. When we first started moving into this house, there were a lot of incandescent bulbs. They were all going out all at once. So we switched everything to LEDs. And my husband really loves to streamline and simplify and have like one bulb that can go anywhere in the house. And so I had been listening to all these design blogs, podcasts. I was rereading Joyful, and everybody seemed to agree that the best light for a house was 2700K, which is fairly warm, and that is good for relaxing. It's good for unwinding at the end of the day. But I'm not necessarily in my studio to unwind anything other than a cone of yarn. I want this to be an active space, and a cooler light is better for that purpose. So I was frustrated because I didn't feel like the light was very bright, first of all, and I was listening to a podcast where one of the hosts mentioned how a warm light is actually kind of hard on her eyes when she's doing her textile work. And I thought, okay, well, let's switch to a cooler light and see what happens. So I switched from 2700K, which is that soft white, to 5000K, which is a cooler light. and you might see it labeled as the daylight color or daylight bulbs. And that made a huge difference, but it still wasn't bright enough. So I switched to an even brighter bulb and then an even brighter bulb. So I was sort of very slowly inching my way up to that recommended number of lumens, that 10,000 to 20,000 lumens that I needed to have enough light for my studio. I was feeling better about how much light I had, but it still wasn't enough. I noticed one day I was sitting at my loom, I was threading my loom, and I had all the lights on. It was the middle of the day, so I had some natural light coming in as well. And I also had my floor lamp, which is this floor lamp from the Daylight Company. It has the brightest is about 1,000 lumens, and then you can adjust the levels of brightness as you need. It also is on these arms, so you can sort of reposition it just however you need to. And it's really touchy, really easy to turn on and off. I was sitting there with that lamp, and I still felt like it wasn't quite bright enough. Like if I could just have just a little bit more light, that I would finally have the right amount of light in the studio. And so this was about the point where I went online and I calculated out all the lumens and realized I'm still falling short. So I decided that I really did need some more overhead light, but remember, I'm not ready to hire an electrician. So what I found was overhead pendant lights that are plug-in. So like the wall sconces, you can get lights that plug in, so you don't have to hardwire them into your electrical system. So I ordered 2, and they came in this tiny box. I thought, this must be the wrong order, this must be the wrong thing. But you assemble them, the shades snap on, and then they're hooks that go into the ceiling so that you can put them exactly where you want. So you do have to drill some holes for both the wall sconces and the pendant lamps, but they're not big holes, they're not heavy fixtures, they're really easy to install. I was able to do it in an afternoon for both projects. And that finally got me the amount of light that I needed. So right now, as it stands, my studio is at about 10,000 lumens, which is on that lower end, remember. And then I've got the task lamp, which is 1,000 lumens, and that I can move around to give me brighter light exactly where I need it. One of the great things about this setup that I really didn't anticipate is that because each light is on its own switch, I can have exactly the amount of light that I need exactly when I need it. So on occasion, I might be sitting in a different position, and maybe I'm threading a loom, so I'm sitting on a stool lower down on the floor, or maybe I'm just in a different place than I normally am. And I might notice, hey, that one lamp is giving me a lot of glare right now. And because they're all on their own switches, I can just flip one switch and turn that off and reduce the glare. Or I can say, you know what, I need maximum brightness and turn everything on all at once. That gives me a level of customization that I really haven't had in previous studios when everything's evenly lit. So I thought that it would be cumbersome to turn on 6 different switches essentially to get the lighting that I need. And it does take a few seconds every day when I come into the studio to do it, but it gives me a level of customization that I've really enjoyed. It's been really helpful to have that specific, get exactly the light that I want. To sum everything up, If you're lighting your own studio and you're not really sure where to start, the first thing I'd say is start with that lighting calculator. Determine how many lumens you need. Look at your bulbs and see how many you have where you are right now. You might be surprised that you don't have as much as you think you do, and that maybe you need a little bit more. From there, determine whether you're going to be using this space as a flexible space. Is it a corner of your living room, or is it the whole space that's going to be your studio? If it's a flexible space where it's going to be studio space some of the time and relaxing space some of the time, be sure and invest in color changing bulbs. There's lots of different ones out there. There are the smart lights, there's dimmable, so that you can really customize your light for exactly what you need at that moment. Make sure you're getting enough lumens. Go for bright. When you're talking about your studio space, go for cool, bright, cool light, lots of it, and make sure that you're taking care of your eyes so that you can weave for much longer and enjoy it. Thanks so much for watching. If you have other questions about how I've lit my studio space, feel free to drop a comment below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.